Hi! Welcome to Create Utopia, in which hosts Chicory and Zero muse over many issues in the style of so many modern millennials, all around the peaceful, flickering light of video games! We hope you enjoy it! Now on with the show! What are we playing today, Zero?
We are playing the menu.
Woo!
Now I turn the music down a bit.
You know we can't hear
Um,
the music.
I know, but I can, and that's why I'm turning it down.
Siegfried's umlauts? Does that say something about the game? Is there going to be umlauts, like lots of umlauts?
There could be. All right, today we are playing Don't Starve. I'm starting a new game. We're not doing Reign of Giants. I'm picking a character.
There we go, okay.
Whoop.
Firestarter? Why is
Do you wanna
Firestarter
play
always a girl?
Do you want to play as Willow or Windy?
Who's Willow? And why can't I choose Mustachioed Man?
You can be the strong man. Do you want to be the strong man?
Well, let me read Windy first really fast. Haunted by her twin sister, comfortable with darkness, doesn't hit very hard. Abigail, come back! I'm not done playing with you.
Oh, and we also have the base character, Will's the gentleman scientist.
Grows a magnificent beard. But he
That's
does
true,
not
he
currently
does.
have a beard. Does he grow it over the game?
No. Yes, and you can shave it to restore sanity.
Whoa. Okay, it's between Gentleman Scientist and Sister. I think I'm gonna go with Gentleman Scientist.
All right, the base character it is. What are we talking about?
Today we're talking about workplace whining, and specifically, how much sympathy do overwhelmed white-collar workers deserve? And sort of thoughts on that, and I just went to a interview yesterday for a gerb, and today I worked at the same place in a slightly different function, and it just different concepts or different ways that different areas like understand each other is just really crazy. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I think we should start, by the way, by talking what like burdened or overworked means for a white collar worker.
Okay. By the way, the screen went... Oh, there we go. Okay, it's fading in. Never mind.
No, it was loading.
Okay. Okay, so what does overburdened or overworked mean for like a white collar worker? Zero. I'm asking you that.
Well, you're asking me that? Man, that's... I guess I am a white collar worker, aren't I?
Yeah. Well, I mean, like, it's kind of funny because... Let me just answer this for you, now that I've asked you. Sorry.
Yes. I wasn't actually expecting you to ask me, just for the record.
Okay, well, let me say what I think it is, and then you can say what you think it is. Like, whether or not you think I'm right, okay?
Sure. No,
Okay.
let's go for that.
So, being like an overworked white-collar worker is... I think it's very similar to some things about being a blue-collar worker, which is that you still have to make deadlines. You still have to put in hours. And when you are overwhelmed, it's basically saying that you have more work than you can do in a given amount of time. So, like, deadlines that are really too fast, or, you know, things sort of that value. You know what I mean? And so It's like, you know, you're stressed because you gotta keep the job, which is getting the stuff done, and if you don't get it done on time, your bosses are angry at you, and they come and, like, yell at you, and you're like, you literally, I could not have gotten this done any faster. I don't know what you want of me. You want something that is, like, basically impossible.
That's not... So, that is a form of being stressed, I will certainly agree. At my job, often stress tends to come more in... Just a lot is expected, perhaps. I think that's the best to say it. Like, it's not so much that I'm overwhelmed, but a lot has to be done, and I'm not always getting the support I need.
Yeah.
But if I go to my boss and ask for the support, he will provide it. Like, that's not the problem. But eventually, like, the stuff has to get done in a certain time frame. And I've worked both white collar and blue collar jobs,
Mm-hmm.
and there's there's exhaustion, right? There's mental exhaustion and there's physical exhaustion.
Yeah.
And I feel like in a lot of cases building up to physical exhaustion is like mental exhaustion has its own downsides,
Mm-hmm.
and they are not the same as physical exhaustion, but physical exhaustion is a lot easier to complain about.
Yeah, it's like, you put in like 8 hours working outside on the like siding a house or
Throwing mulch.
throwing mulch, or I was just going to say landscaping in general, but yeah, throwing mulch
Well,
specifically.
yeah, you're right. Landscaping is actually a better example because that's
Um,
what I used to do.
yeah, making the world beautiful, Zero. That's what you used to do, by some people's definition. Anyway,
That's a word.
yeah, it's like it's sort of like mental illness versus like physical illness. Like if you lose a limb or something like that, then that's something that people can like see and be like, wow, you had to really change your life about that, because they can see outwardly you have to like either have like a prosthetic or a wheelchair or something, and it's like pretty obvious. But if you have depression or anxiety or something kind of like that, then you maybe like miss opportunities, and people, it's hard for someone else to see your missed opportunities.
That's a really good way of putting it. That's so that almost is in a different topic of mental illness.
Well,
Like,
yeah, but what I'm saying is that like it's sort of similar in the way that like, you can if you have had any kind of childhood of like picking weeds, then or mowing the lawn, working physically is hard. It makes you tired. But if you
yeah,
have never, if you're like a C average student or whatever, and you've never really had to like work hard, or I shouldn't say like with a specific average, if you've never had to work hard in school, then you see somebody that's like, I had to edit for like 4 hours or 8 hours or whatever. I had to code for 8 hours, or I had to like make cold calls and talk to people on the phone for 8 hours. They're gonna be like,
which I have done. Oh God,
I know you've worked many places. I know this.
that's the worst.
Yeah, and it like wears you down over the day. And part of that is, like any job is going to be right now it's going to be work, because, you got to get stuff done. Things have to happen. And you got to get your name out there and stuff. But it doesn't mean that it doesn't mean to have to be grueling, and it doesn't mean that it doesn't have to, how do I want to say this? You are always going to be working for the company that's paying you, but the company can also work sort of for you to be like, either here's training or here's support of some kind, or, we're not going to tear you
Too
down.
far, too far.
Ah!
Just don't even worry about it. Keep saying what you were saying.
I'm enjoying watching this guy kind of like run around and be scared and stuff. Yeah, so it sounds funny to say a good environment or a bad environment, and I think that it's also not super fair to say that about only white collar workers. Like blue collar workers are just as true. If you have a crappy blue collar worker that's like, gonna make you nickel and dime you for your break times, for your 10 minutes or your 30 minutes, then that's like crappy. That's a bad boss, because, or be stingy with like how much time do you get to go to the bathroom, you know what I mean? That's going to be something that is different for
Well,
different
and
people.
you bring up a really good point in that the distinction between blue collar workers and white collar workers is not as much like we want to pretend like it's a huge difference, but it's not as big of a difference as a lot of people make it.
I don't think
Like,
it is.
a lot of people want to act like, oh, they're so too different. Like, those two, really, you need to respect one and not respect the other. But that's just kind of a way to keep the like workers separated and not working together, to recognize when companies are treating you poorly.
Yeah.
Because you're right, like a warehouse worker and a office worker might both be getting treated poorly by the company, and they should really like point that out.
Yeah.
But if you keep them thinking like, well, one of you is worth thinking about,
Or one of them.
then
Sorry.
no, go ahead. Go ahead.
I was gonna say them keeping each other thinking about each other. Like, the white collar workers, like, looking down on the blue collar workers, like, maybe saying, for example, like, they didn't go to college, they couldn't do my job, blah, 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 blah. At the same time, the blue collar
Yeah.
workers are like, those pencil pushers, they couldn't do, like, an quote unquote honest day's work, blah, 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 blah. You're both putting in, at least 8 hours, or however many hours you're putting in. You're both working for the company. You're both working to live. You haven't won the lottery yet, buddy.
Well, and also, I mean, who gets to pick whose job is harder, right? It's the pissing contest doesn't help anybody really.
Yeah.
Really, you should both be sitting there saying, what's the best I can do my job? And if someone else is doing their job well, then it's important that that gets recognized. But it's also important it gets recognized the people who are actually doing well, as opposed to the folks who are complaining about you.
Can you say that one more time? I'm sorry, it was kind of breaking up.
So people like to unite around common quote unquote enemies.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's important to note that sometimes the people you identify at work as your common enemy are not actually your enemy. Like, for example, if you're a blue collar worker working in the warehouse, they're not necessarily your enemies. This is a common problem when I worked as a game tester.
Mm-hmm.
Is that like you start to feel really personal sometimes when you get the note back that that's a feature. It's like the joke in the tester world is that devs just don't fix their bugs, so they'll send you back a note that that's not a bug, that's a feature. And it's usually tongue in cheek, but sometimes you're like, this is like really annoying and a really big issue, and it goes to release, and like on the internet people are like, God, this is so stupid. Why didn't they fix this in bug testing? You're like, I told them in bug testing. They said it wasn't major enough.
They knew about it. The other people saw it too. It was totally avoidable.
Yes, we know it's annoying. Right.
That's hilarious.
But you don't know, like, I have also worked with coders and game devs and people, and they're not trying to make your life harder, bug tester. They have their own stuff. And it's hard for everyone in the equation to realize this sometimes, especially when you've all been working. Like, when I worked as a game tester one time, I worked 30 days straight of essentially 10-hour days plus weekends.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, I basically didn't get to go home to do anything but sleep for more than a month. And we were getting new versions every day, which means that the testers were doing that too. Or not the testers, the devs. The devs were doing that too, because this title was a huge deal, and it was really important.
Mm-hmm.
They did not, the company we worked for, who I won't mention here, because that they
Like
I
infringement or something?
Them. No, I haven't worked there for almost 5 years now. I'm pretty sure that I could talk about it, and it's not going to hurt my career prospects any.
Well, but they could still like hear this and then sue you for like defamation or something.
Well, everything I said is true. I don't know if you could sue me for defamation, but I liked working there, and honestly, they weren't that bad. paid us fairly for the overtime. That's how I moved into my apartment and got my motorcycle. Like,
Mm-hmm.
they didn't pretend that the overtime was not hard and they fed us and stuff. It was just a lot of work, and the game came out and it was pretty good and did pretty well.
I think that that's
So,
something that
yeah.
bothered me about this interview. I'm sorry, we were talking about this before and you kind of brought it up again, which is that they didn't lie to you. And that's something that this company was like, these are growing jobs. We're hiring because we're growing. These are not, replacement jobs, blah, 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 blah. But then I was talking to other people that work there today, and they're like, or they said, we don't bother to learn that position's names anymore. It's like a 3 month. Nobody's lasted longer than 3 months.
And
Or
that
6 months.
should be worrisome because, so that's the other thing is there is exhaustion, but job hunting is hard,
Yeah.
right? Like, job hunting is a difficult thing to do.
Mm-hmm.
And when you get a new job just after job hunting, not knowing if you'll have it in 3 months is its own form of exhaustion. And blue collar workers have to go through that too. Like, that is a shared thing because a lot of blue collar jobs are temporary. Like, you might have a few warehouse employees, but really you only need those, like, you need most of your warehouse workers for only a very small chunk of the year.
Mm-hmm.
And
Yeah.
so, yeah, like,
That was just what bothered me was it was like, you were telling me about, for example, you told me about working at the tax place during tax season, and they were like, we only need you for like, 3-4 months, and then you're gonna be done. Like, here you go, blah, blah, blah. And these people were like, we don't want to fire you, just make your thing, and if you don't make your quota, then you're out. But we said it's super reasonable, we're very reasonable, and here's like, what is your plan for staying with us in 2 years?
oh, so it wasn't a 5-year question? Dang, I didn't prepare you right.
I know, well, but still, I figured something out.
You improvised.
I did.
Like, oh no, I only plan to be with you in 5 years. I don't know how to answer for 2 years.
That's true. Okay. So, time-best questions are very important for interviews. Anybody that's listening that's going to go into an interview, make sure that you have answers for 6 months, 1 year, 2 years, and 5 years. Sometimes 10 years. But that's like, who knows in 10 years? You could be dead. 5 years, though, is pretty...
You could be dead in 10 hours, Chicory.
But nobody really...
Like, I don't mean to rain on your parade, but...
It is literally raining in the game, though.
It is literally raining. I don't want it to put my campfire out.
Where's his
I'm trying
beard?
to find some rocks. It'll grow. It's only been 3 days.
He shouldn't even have stubble? I guess he does have a little bit of stubble. Maybe.
Yeah. Nobody grows beards that fast but your husband, Chicory. That's not true at all. I know lots of people who grow beards that fast.
Yeah, I was like, I don't know who you've been talking to.
Okay, I may have to abandon that fire. I don't like this location as much.
So are you building a house?
I will be. I need to, well,
Oh, a
I might
ship!
have the tools to build a house.
And a bunny!
Yeah. I can build a grass suit.
That's cool. Did you see the bunny?
What? That is a ship.
Did you not believe me?
Well, I mean, I believed you. I just haven't seen the ship before.
Anyway, the last thing I was gonna think about out loud on this topic is that it's so similar to the way that people kind of talk about the language that they used in this article is so similar to like feminists and feminism, where it's like people are thinking about this and they're like, at least you're not as bad as like such and such, at least you don't have to work 12-hour days or whatever, or at least you don't have to do this, or well, of course, such and such company is going to be terrible, like because blah blah blah.
So, oh man, so I want to bring that up. You know how they had the whole Amazon thing recently? And like everyone's like, Amazon treats their employees so poorly. Much like the earthquake thing that everyone's freaking out about Seattle being near a volcano, as if we don't know that here. The stories of how badly Amazon treats their employees are like legendary in the tech contracting community up here, which is what I
Really?
work in. Yeah, like that wasn't a secret if you are a temporary tech worker up here. I know lots of people who are really good at their jobs who were fired from Amazon because one person decided to like randomly drop a thing on them.
That's
Like
bananas.
one of those performance
Also,
for review things. Yeah, just
I
like half the group liked her, half the group didn't. One of the advisors that didn't dropped one of like the PIPs on her, and that was it.
that's so just
Yeah,
terrible. Yeah, it's just so stressful to like be in an environment like that. I have another friend that talked about like people in her company. The company would just say fire two people from every division, just so that you know that you are replaceable. You know,
yeah. Well, I work in
or
tech contracting, so I'm not
what
at all surprised, unfortunately.
what the other side of that I read was there was not an anthropologist, but a woman that did the Amazon warehouse side, and she was like, the amount of orders that you have to make is a like hugely competitive, and b it's just grueling. It's grueling work, and basically like people would just fall apart after working there for 6 months. You know.
Yes, and I don't doubt that. But this person like was on the board of a nonprofit. She has a law degree. Um, she wasn't falling apart after 6 months.
No,
Like there is an extent where that is true, and sometimes you're just like, oh hey, yeah. Sometimes people just fall apart after a while, but also there's a bad work environment,
but that's what I'm
and
saying is
not
it's like
yeah.
bad work environment from like the ground up. Like every part of that place seems toxic.
No, that's fair. Like I hadn't considered it that way. And I think sometimes there's the old saying, the right hand doesn't know what the left hand is doing. And sometimes HR departments are like instituting policies that seem good,
Mm-hmm.
but at the same time, like they create that work environment and the HR is doing their best in order to like HR wants to keep people there because they don't want to go through rounds of new hires all the time.
Mm-hmm.
Retraining someone is expensive. Like when I worked at like when I first started working at the job I have now, one of the very first things we did was figure out a better training procedure and try not to have to hire so many new people
Yeah.
because hiring new people, it's hard. Like people don't necessarily want to hire new people all the time.
Yeah. That's true.
It's no fun and it's hard and it's devastating for morale to fire people.
Mm-hmm.
Like nothing wrecks morale faster than seeing high turnover or not, because high turnover makes you think you won't have a job soon.
That's one of the things that's so strange about this company. Like it seems like it so would not be that way, but then when you talk to the rest of the people that work there and they are saying that, it's like, what's really going on here? Blah blah blah. Blah. I don't know.
Mm-hmm.
So closing thoughts. Ready?
Sure, hit me.
Closing thoughts are the at least it's not as bad as argument is not good in feminism, and it's not good in the workplace. And so that's closing thought number one. Closing thought number two is, I guess, sort of like saying it's really hard for, what you said about the right hand and left hand is that some people, like, they might want to be doing the right thing, but if they're not getting feedback back that, like, hey, you're still having to hire, like, a bunch of new people, or people are quitting, or this is creating such and such kind of an environment, there's no checks and balances there, and you need to have that. And also just, like, company transparency and honesty. Like, that was the biggest thing that struck me about this interview and hire and things, is that, they really put forward that, like, they wanted you to be there for several years, and the rest of the or the workers at the company are like, most people are done after 3 months. So,
Those all seem reasonable. I mean, things to look at.
yeah, things to look at. Whew, how are we doing in the game? It's nighttime. We have an eye. There's like a
We
campfire and a science
we have an
machine.
eye watch out. Yeah, we have a science machine. That's literally what it's called. We've planted some new trees.
I saw that. Very good. So that
Yeah.
we can like harvest them later.
Right, we're practicing some forest conservation with the pine cones.
That's great.
We've got an axe. We've
What
got
is the
some,
little guy that like followed us around? The little crab guy, Chester.
I can store stuff in him. He's a pumpkin.
Oh, that's
He's like
cute.
a backpack.
That's nice. Cool. Great. Great.
Yep. So
Day
we're doing
4.
pretty well. Like we are surviving. It's the day 4. I made us a razor, so when our beard shows up, we can shave it to get some sanity back.
That's great.
So we've got a nice flower hat.
Yay! I saw that.
And-
It's very pretty.
Yeah, and I'm gonna go check our traps and see if we can kill some bunnies.
Okay, let's leave before that. I don't want to watch that part.
All right, then I'll go stand next to the fire, and I will save.
Okay, great. I'll
Do you
watch
wanna-
the
do you wanna
fire bunny killing
read us out?
part next time. Oh, thank you for reminding me. Thank you for watching us and listening to us and everything. We hope you enjoyed the show. I am 123 Chicory on Twitter, and 0 is at 0 Utopia. Please like and subscribe our video and hit us up on Twitter. Bye!
Thanks for watching. Bye.
Bye!